Hey moms, it's Laura Ollinger. Welcome to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. Because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine named Laura Jennings, who is a breathwork facilitator. And so I recently met her through a mutual friend. And this guy said, you've got to meet her. She's amazing. She'd be so good on your podcast. So of course I'm, calling her and texting her. And this has been kind of months in the making. And we finally had an awesome phone conversation. Then we got to meet in person. And I just fell in love with the other awesome Laura because there's so many awesome Lauras in this world. So Laura Jennings and I have gotten to know each other. And so we'll kind of get a little bit deeper into that connection in just a minute. But to kind of spoil that surprise, I ended up taking her breathwork class, which was phenomenal, life-changing. And so Laura, just tell us a little bit about, you have this kind of day job, you work at a hospital, but by night you do these other things. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So my, career job, right? The job that I do during the day is I am a medical speech language pathologist. And so it is my absolute heart and soul to serve humans who have traumatic brain injury. I love it. And just in my own personal work, I have developed a passion, which is my by night, kind of my passion project is breathwork.
Yeah.
So I began to fall in love with the modality of breath because it's available to all of us and it's something that we can consciously take intention around and shift our whole system, our whole regulatory system. And I just think that's a really powerful tool. So I love it.
Yes. And you are a mom of 3 and you had a bonus child. So tell us a little bit about the ages of your kiddos.
Okay, so I have our oldest son just graduated high school and is at the University of Arkansas. He's 19. We have a daughter, 17, who's a senior this year, who is about to graduate as well. So we have a lot of shifts happening in the dynamics of our home, and then an 8th grade son. So, and then I have a bonus adult kid.
That's awesome. So you're right here in the thick of it with all of us because my audience is moms of teens and tweens mostly, but we welcome all moms of all ages and either grandmoms as well, grandmothers. So, how does breath help you as a mom? And what today can we teach the moms about breath?
So I would say for me, the biggest thing that breath work has given me is this idea of being able to cultivate a pause. Being able to have a conscious way to just create a minute for myself, like just to create some space. And I found for me as a mom, now granted, I've got older kids, but I remember when the days were long and the years were short, right? Where you're like, oh my God, it's just 7 p.m. where we're going to put them in the bath and get the routine, right? I didn't have a lot of space for myself. And so I find breath work to be a really powerful modality to allow us as humans and specifically moms to be able to create a moment of embodiment with ourselves. And I find in our culture, and especially just with all the busyness and all the schedules and all the calendar, I mean, being a mom there's so much going on all the time. And I find that when I can take a moment and just consciously breathe and expand, and even if that's 3 breaths, literally 3 breaths, changes my whole way of being. And I want that for moms. And I feel like we live in a culture that is very mind focused. We spend a lot of time in our mind and thinking and organizing and planning. And I find that the breath takes me immediately into the experience of my body. I find a lot of wisdom there, which makes me a more whole person, which makes me a better mom,
Yes. And I think what you said about cultivating the pause with breath just really painted a picture for me, because it is a practice, right? And it is a discipline,
Yes.
because we can easily be crazy busy, take our 3-second pause, and that's great. And I find that it does take some discipline, some conscious effort, some even planning. So even to the extent of me planning intentionally to go to your breathwork class, right? Like that was an hour class. I had to plan it. It was in my calendar, and man, I was a different person. I mean, you saw me from the moment I came in there, which was, scurrying in there to get there on time, to the moment I left.
Yes.
I was like, my world has shifted right now. And it was awesome, because it even led into the next day. Like I still felt the effects the next day. And then I found myself even trying to like recapture that in the next day. I was like, oh my gosh, like last night was amazing, and I want to keep giving my body that benefit. And so I kept just kind of bringing myself back there. So when we talk about cultivating the pause, it's really, I think, the best thing you could possibly do for yourself, for your family, for your kids, for almost everything.
Oh my goodness. I mean, as moms, right? We are all almost ubiquitously over schedule. We have so many things going on at all time. And so to me, the greatest gift I can give myself is space, just space.
Yeah.
Be able to be with myself and to even check in. And I also find, I don't know if you feel this too, Laura, I find I can be very connected with others, and I can be very connected with other people and my kids, and I can know how they're feeling, but it takes me time and intention to figure out how I'm doing.
Yeah, totally.
So to create time, whether it's a breathwork class is, even that, taking an hour to breathe is truly life-changing, right? As experienced, it is every time for me. But even because I want to make it accessible for people too, right? Like if you can't go to an hour class, like what can you do? But even being able to take, I say the breath is one of my favorite things too, because it's a system that works without us having conscious awareness, and it's a system that we can take conscious control over. Which is really freaking powerful in our lives, because when I breathe differently, I change the state of my being and of my mind. And I just think it's such a powerful tool, because it's free and available if we choose.
Yes. So what I think would be important is, because I know in the past when I've done, my deep breathing, and sometimes when I'm just so amped up, I find that I can't fill my lungs all the way. Like there's something that feels stuck right here, and I can't get that final expansion that I'm looking for. And so I feel like that might be one of the biggest obstacles of why moms might say, oh yeah, I've tried deep breathing, it didn't really work, or it slows me down a little bit, but I didn't get the full benefit. So I'm just curious, because you are an expert in this matter, what can you do to get that full maximum lung expansion?
So for me, the cue that works the best for me in terms of being able to really expand into my breath, belly, ribs, chest. Yoga, honestly, a yoga instructor gave me that cue. But in the world of breath work, you can go into all the science and stuff of it, but that to me is the simplest, most accessible way to think about it, is how can I take a breath deep into my belly, and then my ribs, and then my chest. Like I'm creating a full body, like breath and expansion. And it does change how you experience the breath if we're willing to like really fully take a minute and slowly expand fully into it. Recommendation.
I like that, because that's where then the focus becomes, because I know when I've tried, and I do lots of meditation and things like that, But where I find the challenge is, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing, is they're kind of like fighting their thoughts. Like they know they're supposed to kind of slow down and observe and let the thoughts pass without judgment, but there's still a lot of thoughts because the day still has to go on, right? And so the thing I love about this is you're not fighting your brain, your body is doing the work.
Correct. And I would say my biggest offering in a space, in the containers that I create for breathwork, is how can we create some space to drop into our body and just let this go for just a little bit. Like it does such a good job. It keeps us really safe. Like the mind is always busy protecting, but like the heart and the body have so much to say to us. And to me, the breath is what allows me to drop into the experience, like of right now. I had another teacher say this: good body, wise body. I love you. I'm listening. Like that's one of my favorite mantras. Love it. That's what I say to myself when I breathe now, because I believe that our bodies have a lot to share with us if we're just willing to cultivate that pause and listen. There's like a lot of wisdom there for us.
And that's what you kind of touched on, that embodiment. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, say a mom has never heard of that. She doesn't know what we're talking about. And we're teaching today, and that's what we're doing. And this is part of the experience. And so we say there's this wisdom, and she's breathing, and she's really starting to, feel that for the first time. And what would you say when she's like, oh, I feel tightness, I feel tension? Like what does she do with that information?
It's an amazing question. And in my experience, the practice is, can I be with whatever rises up? If it's an emotion, if it's a feeling of like a crunchiness in my body, like just that there is this information that comes through, and with breath, I can just bring my awareness, again, my consciousness to it. And what I found is there's just a lot of power in that. Things in our body or in our feelings, they just want to be seen, is what I find. And if we're willing to create some space, then we can be with the thing. I love the term, like the reminder that we're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
Right. And I tend to be really comfortable in a lot of doing. And it's a little more challenging for me, especially as a mom, to just be with. Find is if I can breathe and be with what's rising up in my own system, I'm a lot more equipped to be able to do that with my kids.
Yeah.
To be with them in whatever's rising up in their experience, right? Instead of being like, I can't even deal with my own shit. Like possibly hold like just even a space for my kids to be where they're at if I can't be with my own body.
And I feel like in the past when I've, kind of done this practice and said, I'm going to be with this, somehow actually the negative parts end up dissipating. It kind of like they lose their power because you're not resisting them anymore. It's like once you're kind of allowing them, then they kind of just float away like you're kind of hoping they would do, right?
No, for real, because I had another teacher say to me, resistance is the path to pain. Just like what you said, most of the things that in my world that are painful are because I'm resisting them. When I'm able to breathe into something, right? Whether it's something that's coming up in my body or something that I'm feeling in my heart, if I can just breathe, like you said, there's not resistance. And so it kind of just passes and transmutes, or, I find for me, it's just a much gentler way to allow myself to really be connected with what is rising up within me. And then next extend that outward into my community, especially my family.
Mm-hmm. And it even, I think, say something really terrible happening and you're really, really upset and you're doing your breath work and you're saying, okay, I can be with this really difficult, painful emotion right now. It's not taking away from the validity of the thing that happened at all. It's almost just allowing you to tolerate that difficult emotion and then can help you move to the next kind of phase or process instead of just staying stuck in that first initial reaction. And I think you said it great the other night. You and I both have heard the quote, emotions are energy in motion.
Yes.
And so the thing, it's like these things are always moving, but when they get stuck is when we are really uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely. And I also really, the breath allows me a way to bring awareness, acknowledgement, and acceptance to whatever the thing is, whether it's a body sensation or a feeling. And like you said, it's an honoring of it. It's not a trying to get rid of it. It's like, oh, this is part of my experience. By the way, I get to be human. So I'm doing moms. I mean, I have to remind myself of that all the time. I'm a mom and I get to be a human too. I get to have the full range of human emotions like everybody else.
Yes.
And I get to honor the humanity of my experience. And to me, this is a really beautiful, simple way to be like, oh, I'm noticing, like you said, I've got some tightness here. Can I just breathe into it? What might that be trying to tell me? How can I be aware and acknowledge, like, I feel grief here. I feel sick, whatever it might be. And yeah, it's just helped me be such a healthier human.
Yes. And I want to touch on more the part about how if you can be with your difficult emotions, then it trains you to be an even bigger kind of vessel for your kids' emotions. So tell us like a little bit like about what that means. It's like I get the concept because for me, I teach this all the time to parents about how to validate and how to empathize and all that stuff. But from your standpoint, like what does that mean?
So in my own just journey with myself, and of course, pain is what has led me to find tools, right? I mean, that is how it works. And so in learning different tools to be able to honor, be with, honestly create acceptance in my own self for the range of my human experience, all the ways I feel, whether I feel mad, angry, sad, frustrated, like I'm not enough, whatever the thing is on the day, it's allowing all of that to be part of my experience. If I can allow, what I used to do is shut everything down, right? Like Laura Jennings is a person who's only positive. I only want the good emotions. Okay.
Yes.
And then
Toxic positivity. Yeah.
yeah, it's not real. Not to mention that when you become a mom, you're like, oh my God, this is the hardest job on the face of the planet. I have a lot of feelings about this. And I wish I had these tools when I was a young mom. Oh my gosh, I would, my younger I wish. And here I am. But for me, when I can hold myself in all those emotions, right? That aren't just the good ones, right? Allow the full range of my human experience, then I'm able to do that with my kids when they're losing their mind about something, or they're super anxious, or they're worried, or they're disappointed, or they feel all the perfectionism things. Like I've been with those things in my own being and system, then I can offer them that. It's a lot. I have like the skill from being with myself. So.
Yeah, I think that's so great because so many parents I hear from get so triggered by their teenagers' big emotions. And I think that's the thing. It's like once we are able to handle our own, then we're better able to handle theirs. And really, it's giving us that insulation or like immunization kind of resistance, or not resistance, but like the ability to handle that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have found that the more space that I create for myself in that, right? The more I can breathe into my own experience, the more spaciousness I have in just my practice with myself, I find I am far less triggered by everyone else because I'm,
Um,
look, we're all just being human. We're
yeah.
just being human again, right? Like we're all doing it. So I
Yeah.
feel that like, oh,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much more. And I feel that it makes me honestly not just a better mom, but a better partner. I'm able to
Hmm.
put my husband in more, a better community member. I'm able to hold my people when they have stuff coming up. It's just really been transformative in that way for me.
That's amazing. Well, you said it so well. That's why I'm so excited to have you come on and just articulate this all to the moms. So how can people find you? I know you have an Instagram page. What is your handle on Instagram?
It's soul, SOL dot HUG, hug. So soul hug.
Soul hug. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, I am definitely going to be following you from now on. And thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast, because there's no manual for the hardest job in the world. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.